A blunt new assessment from the head of the FBI about the origins of COVID-19, deepening the debate this morning over what triggered the global pandemic.
The FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident.
The FBI's agents, analysts, and biological threat experts assessing that a lab in Wuhan, China was the virus's likely source. The Chinese government denies that, but FBI Director Chris Wray says they've tried to hide evidence from the world.
The observation that the Chinese government, seems to me, has been doing its best to try to thwart and obfuscate the work here, the work that we're doing.
Wray's comments coming just days after news broke that the U.S. Department of Energy also concluded with low confidence that the virus, which has killed more than 1.1 million Americans, had likely originated from a laboratory leak and described it as an accident. Other U.S. agencies believe the virus emerged naturally, a view which had been the mainstream scientific consensus for much of the pandemic.
The evidence strongly points to this being a natural occurrence of a jumping of a virus from a bat to an animal species to human.
The renewed debate over the pandemic's origin among the topics explored in the first primetime hearing of a new bipartisan select committee in Congress, focusing on competition between China and the United States.
And do you believe that China has taken the appropriate steps to make a future lab leak less likely?
I think that the system that's in place in China does not permit for or prize serious safety.
The committee's Republican chairman telling NBC News he hopes its work serves as a national wake-up call.
I hope people understand why they should care about the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party, why this is not just a distant, over-there problem, but increasingly a problem that affects all Americans right here at home.
Now, the Chinese Foreign Ministry responded to Director Wray's comments overnight, pushing back against the lab leak theory and accusing the U.S. of politicizing the pandemic. Craig?
Senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake for us. Garrett, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News analyst John Brennan, who served as CIA director under President Obama. Director Brennan, good morning to you, sir. Let's start with the FBI director's comments there, that he has believed since 2021 with a medium level of confidence that the virus did in fact start in that Wuhan lab. Coming on the heels of that Department of Energy report that said pretty much the same thing, but with a low level of confidence. Director, based on what you've read, what you've heard from the intelligence community, where do you think this virus started?
Well, Craig, I think what we have right now in the intelligence community is basically a hung jury, where the members of the jury have received this intelligence and they have different perspectives, expertise about what the origins of it were. And I think it's important for us to be able to understand as much as possible about how this pandemic originated. But I think also the most important point is to try to strengthen the security and safety procedures at these biolabs, whether they be in China or around the world, because there is a very plausible explanation, as Department of Energy and FBI believes, that it did originate from a leak from the Wuhan lab.
Do you think, again, to Garrett's point in his story there are still a number of folks who believe that it occurred naturally, perhaps started in a bat, then somehow transferred to a human. Now you've got these conflicting reports from various government agencies. Do you think we'll ever know for certain how the virus started?
Well, I think the Chinese are making it very difficult for us to know with any type of certainty about how the virus started. But it's my impression that there is a lot of circumstantial evidence that all the different agencies are trying to understand and analyze, and that's why they come out with the different bottom lines. But again, I think almost irrespective of whether or not we can be certain about it, we need to take the appropriate measures and encourage the Chinese and others to take these measures to prevent any future leak of these viruses from these research laboratories. That, I think, is the most important aspect of this.
On a macro level here, Director, I mean, the origins of the virus, China's attempts to cover it up, the spy balloon incident, reports that China wants to perhaps help the Russians in Ukraine. Now you have these primetime hearings that are being supported by both Republicans and Democrats en masse there in Washington regarding the threat that China poses to the United States. As we sit here right now this morning, how would you characterize the threat that China poses to the U.S.?
Oh, so it's multidimensional. You didn't even mention TikTok. There have been tremendous developments in China, particularly on the technological front, that I think pose a very serious security threat and risk to the United States as well as the rest of the world. It's clear that China is not in the mood to cooperate on a number of these issues and is being rather provocative in terms of whether it be intelligence collection activities or as well as refusing to cooperate on things as important as the pandemic. So I do think the world ahead is quite fraught. I'm glad that there is a bipartisan effort to try to look at what we can do to try to mitigate some of these threats. But I think the challenge is going to be a long-term one with China.
Former CIA Director John Brennan. Director, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.